All right. What is good? What is good? What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, you know who I am, the good doc, Dr. Mike, back again, once again, with another classic, interesting interview for my audience today, wherever you are reporting in the world today. Maraming salamat sa lahat. Thank you guys for being here. And today's guest is none other than my man Bede, also known as Big Brother on YouTube. Now, Big Brother, how you doing, man? How you doing?
I am doing great.
It's good to hear from you, man. So I would like you to give the audience a little bit of your background and where you've been, where you live. If you want to talk about what your work is and how you ended up coming to the Philippines.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me. Yeah, basically, my name is Bede. Yeah, I'm running a small YouTube channel. I just started, not a biggie. And I work as a software engineer. Basically, I work remotely, so I can take a holiday whenever I like. Not necessarily I have to make arrangement with the boss, but I like going to Southeast Asia. It's cheap there, and the life looks good up there. So I've been to the Philippines and Vietnam in particular. Last year I went to Vietnam and the Philippines, and this year I went again to the Philippines and I spent most of my vacation in the northern part of Mindanao and a bit of time in Davao. Yeah.
All right. So was this your first trip to the Philippines? How many trips have you made to the Philippines so far?
This was officially my second one. My first one was pretty short, maybe 1 week, and I didn't go any further than Cavite near Manila. So
Okay.
this was like my first big one. Yeah.
All right. So how long was the duration of your vacation? How long did you stay in the Philippines this second trip?
It was about 4 weeks in the
4 weeks.
Philippines.
Okay, so we'll
Yeah.
say a good solid month. Now, where was your landing point in Mindanao? Where did you come into Mindanao?
I landed in Manila, went to Cebu for about maybe 4 nights. Then I went to Iligan
Okay,
City.
Iligan. All right.
Yeah, via the Cagayan de Oro airport, which is actually called the Lagindingan. I might be butchering that name. It's
Yeah,
hard
it's a
to
little rough one to
pronounce.
say. For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we have to be honest. We have to get into the nitty-gritty of it all in reference to Mindanao. I'm pretty sure that I've heard myself, and you can come across many YouTubers that have this ideology that the Mindanao region in general, outside of Davao City, is particularly dangerous. Like, this is something that scares foreigners shitless, for lack of a better term, and this is what deters a lot of people from coming to the Mindanao region. Now, what particular area in Mindanao did you go? And tell me what your thoughts and experiences were in these particular areas.
I visited the northern part of Mindanao in particular. That's Cagayan de Oro, which is in Osamis
Right, you're
Oriental,
good.
I
I got,
think so.
yeah, something like that.
I visited Iligan. I spent quite some time in Iligan City. Then I went to Osamis, which is just across, and as far as the Polog in Zamboanga del Norte. And there's some
Okay.
areas nearby, like Calamba, Dapitan, those parts, not very popular. Yeah.
Okay. So, in visiting these quote unquote unpopular locations in the Philippines, um I could pretty much determine that out of all of those particular places, Cagayan de Oro was probably the biggest one out of the ones that you mentioned as far as city wise. I think Cagayan was the biggest city type area out of the places you went to go see. Okay. So, for example, you stayed in Cagayan. What were your experiences like there in comparison to going to places like Iligan and then traveling to Calamba? And I've heard some things about Dipolog as well. So, as you started getting into these more, I would say, provincial regions of Mindanao, what was it like as you got into these particular areas?
Cagayan was more like a normal, typical city. There was not much around Cagayan in terms of touristy stuff.
Okay.
Iligan was more interesting. I think they've got 3 falls, one big fall. I think it's called Maria Cristina Fall. Very beautiful.
Okay.
And there was another one called Tinago Fall, a very good one with, like, it is in a valley. You have to go, I don't know, hundreds of stairs. It's quite interesting one. And the third one, I can't remember. It was pretty small, but it was near a city called Buruun. So I
Oh,
think
okay.
Iligan was more interesting in terms of touristy areas, especially if you are into outdoor stuff. The Polog, same thing. It was a bit quiet, a quieter city. By 9 p.m., everywhere is pretty dead. Everyone is sleeping except one particular street. So yeah, was quite an interesting. I'm more into like a provincial lifestyle instead of a big city. So that's why I spend my time in Mindanao. Yeah.
Okay, so as we know, Iligan is probably known for its terrorist type activities. That's the best way to say it, quote unquote, the terrorist type activities. Now, when you were in Iligan specifically, you said there are beautiful areas to go to, no doubt. But did you have a eerie feeling? Was there like a heavy police presence? Did you come across anything like that that would let you further know, okay, this area may not be, as safe as probably a place like,
Yeah,
traveling to those places? Go ahead.
I got the feeling actually before I went there, I looked onto the map and it is so close to Marawi.
Right, right,
Marawi.
right.
I'm
Yeah,
not sure how they say
Marari.
the
Yeah,
name.
Marari. You're right.
And I remember seeing a YouTube video, a documentary onto around a battle between the Philippines army and those rebels, and it was a disaster. Like the whole city was destroyed to the ground. So when I looked on the map and I saw how far it was from Marawi, or rather how close it was, I was like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't go there. So yes, that's looking from the map itself and knowing the history of Marawi, you get really scared. Then there is a really visible presence of those guys. As you said, I don't want to be controversial, and I think YouTube is also being very rigorous when it comes to these religious stereotypes.
Hmm.
But yeah, there is a marked presence of them, and every Filipino will tell you, like, even people in Cagayan de Oro. I remember I was with a taxi driver, and he asked me, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Iligan." He was like, "Are you sure going to Iligan?" I said, "Yes, I'm going to Iligan." This time, I said, "Yes, I'm going to Iligan." Say, I think Iligan is quite challenging. So even the Filipinos like close to Iligan, as close as the Bitan or the Polog, or even in like 2 hours away, they think Iligan is not pretty safe. So yes, there is that. You can see the presence of those guys, those sort of people. They think they are more likely to blow up malls or
Okay.
kidnap someone. However, I was surprised in Robinson Mall. I saw a lot of. There was on a Sunday morning, and it's every Sunday in the morning there is a Catholic mass or a church service going on. It's
Right,
a
right.
big, like a lot of maybe 100 people gathered there, and the priest preaching and a choir, like a normal Catholic mass. If you are familiar with the Catholic Church on Sunday morning, I was like, maybe it's safe. I mean, you wouldn't have a Christian congregation gather in an area that is, if it is as bad as people say. I didn't expect people to congregate. But security-wise, yes, the whole of Mindanao, the security is very tight. The shopping mall, armed guard. There are a lot of police or army checks on the roads as you travel. I traveled a lot with the buses, and there was like police checks here and there.
Okay.
But apart from that, the airport is really guarded. It looks like, I don't know. It's really like
Like a
I saw like more
prison.
than, yeah.
That's
It's
crazy.
like an army barrack. Yeah, yeah. That's, yeah, true.
And that's interesting that you say that. To be honest, you come across quite a few Filipinos in general, especially as it pertains to us as foreigners, that will naturally deter us or say, oh, maybe you shouldn't go to that area, or maybe you shouldn't do this. And I do find it interesting because a lot of the Filipino people that tell you not to go to these areas, they're not telling you because they've been there themselves and they've seen it themselves. They're more so telling you this because this is what they've heard as well. So I guess the way that we are as foreigners, these particular areas are even foreign to the locals, if that makes sense. These are foreign, uncharted lands for most of the locals, living in, like you said, Cagayan and other areas. So it is interesting to hear them deter foreigners from going to certain areas. And with that being said, taking that all into consideration, I think it really does. I'm not gonna say conserve because they got their own issues, but it keeps the area probably purged of many foreigners. So with that being said, while you were there, how many foreigners did you actually come across? I don't care if it was black, I don't care if it was white. In total, how many foreigners did you come across in your time in any of these provincial areas that you visited?
I didn't see many in Iligan. I haven't seen anyone in Iligan, I think. But I believe in Ozamis, I met actually, I think three foreigners.
Okay.
No,
More.
two foreigners in Ozamis. Yeah, two. One guy was a Jamaican actually, and the other one was an American, but I think from the army, who retired and has got a Filipino wife and was staying there. Dipolog had more foreigners among the three cities. I didn't spend too much time in Cagayan de Oro, but compared to Iligan and to Ozamis, Dipolog had more foreigners. I saw a number of foreigners on that busy street. I can't remember the name, but it's one of the most popular part of Dipolog. And there's a bit of a nightlife. So I saw some foreigners there. But compared to cities like Manila or Cebu or even Davao, it was like more local. It's a more local presence than foreigners. Yeah.
Okay. And you did say something interesting. You said that you wouldn't see a lot of people crowding or gathering around in malls and having masses and stuff like that if it was as dangerous as people claim it to be, with the bombings of malls. So from that particular moment on, is that what changed your perspective about the particular region? Or as you enjoyed your trip a little bit more, what is it that changed your mind about being in Iligan and these more provincial areas on the outskirts of Cagayan de Oro?
Definitely, Iligan is particular. It's like a red, sort of reddish zone. Really, like everyone will tell you, Iligan is no-go zone because even the people who fled from the battles in Marawi, they actually moved up north to Iligan and the other city in Lanao del Norte. But seeing like a church, a physical church, people gathering in hundreds in a mall taught me like there's safety because like they were really like an easy target. It's like they were exposing themselves to some terrorist attack if there was any. So that sort of gave me an impression that it's not that bad. And actually, one of the AirBNB where I stayed, it was let me say, it was like a Muslim lady there, and I think it was either her brother or her husband. I didn't ask, but she was wearing the burqa, those face hiding clothing they wear, and she even asked me, "Are you Muslim?" I said, "No, I'm not," and we just chat normally. How are things? And it was good. I just stayed there for a couple of nights. The only restriction was don't drink alcohol, don't bring in pork stuff, which I respected. But they didn't enforce that. I don't think that I would have had a problem if I had a beer or a wine in that AirBNB. There was no like checks and the regular checks. It was good from my experience. Yeah.
All right. So, quick question. Interacting with the locals, did you ever get a chance to pose the question, why are so many people? It's not as bad as it's been seen on TV or anything like that. But did you ever have? I'm not going to say a dialogue or a conversation about it, but did you ever come across somebody that you could actually have a conversation about, the region and how the people living there actually feel about, you know, the narrative about their particular city. Because again, for example, I love Davao City, and I'm pretty big on not necessarily promoting it, but I like it. And if there's any negative output on the country, I'm quick to say, nah, that's not what it really is. Did you have anybody there to talk to or to discuss about how they feel about this negative connotation per se on their particular city?
Yeah, I think I spoke to a number of people offline and online. I think the first interaction was there's some YouTuber guy in Bukidnon.
Hmm.
I once just text them from one of the charts, and they said, "No, it's good here in Bukidnon." Then I had a friend, not a friend, like an online Facebook friend in Kutalag, which is somewhere in Zamboanga. He also said, no, just it's not like that. There are cities that are like dangerous. I think they said that, like Zamboanga city, or basically like the south or western part of Zamboanga Peninsula.
Hmm.
And when I was like this lady where I stayed, she was open to talk to me about it. She said, no, the media is trying to portray us the way we are not. It's not as bad as it is.
You know,
So yeah, some locals will, if you ask them, they will tell you, no, some people are exaggerating, or the bad part is that side,
right.
So,
And you know what intrigues me about it? I guess I'm trying to figure out what it is that the media gets from this particular, narrative that they're portraying about the Philippines. I don't feel like it does the country any favors to attract people to come in when you're talking about, okay, this terrorist activity is happening here. And, I kind of feel like it pushes foreigners away. So if the purpose of if the purpose of the Philippines hypothetically is to bring more people to come in and visit, what do you think they benefit news wise, media wise, from telling people or exposing the fact that they do have these particular issues, in the Philippines? You understand? Because it
yeah.
is some Philippine outlets, but again, there are a lot of Western outlets too that cover the story. So I'm not gonna say it's just Philippine outlets, but let's focus on the Philippine outlets. What do you think they get from promoting or talking about it in that light?
I think when it comes to media, it's like what they say, bad news drama it sells, right? So, and for that matter, they tend to focus on certain events. They look like more important than others. And one example is like terrorist activity, and not just in the Philippines, worldwide. If you count people who die from terrorist activity and the people who die from, I don't know, malaria, dengue, uh, heart attack, you will find that probably people who die from malaria are like hundreds times people who die from terrorist activity. But it looks like terrorism is everywhere. That's what is promoted in the media. And the same goes with the Philippines. And actually, I said that people thought I was joking. I said, actually, I'm more scared of the dengue than of the terrorists, because statistically speaking, there are thousands of people who die in the Philippines or who get sick every year,
Hmm.
like thousands of people, not just hundreds. But when it comes to terrorist activity, especially as regard to foreigners being kidnapped or getting their head chopped off, how many do you know every year? How many? One, maybe less than one sometimes.
Right. I mean, with the exception of, like I said, they pretty much it was a high profile issue back in 2015 or so. They kidnapped, I want to say it was a Canadian in Samoa Island just off of Davao City. And, they did a beheading in the whole nine. So, I mean, I kind of feel like these stories are few and far between. Like you may get a story every now and again, every couple of months or so. But like you said, I mean, to be honest, the stories on people dying from dengue are just not as popular as the stories of people, getting into conflicts and battling and fighting and having these, quote unquote wars. So,
So
that.
statistically speaking, then you
Mm.
are probably 100 times more likely to die or to get sick of dengue than to be kidnapped anywhere in the Philippines. So I wasn't joking. I really meant it. It is so the media tended to promote. If I was to die of dengue, probably nobody would have put in the news. But if it was to be
No.
kidnapped, it would be all over the news.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So somehow certain activities get more promotion than other activities. But I think just how they make uh, eyeballs and the clicks and
For
the
sure.
views and they make
We've
money.
right. We've learned a lot about social media. So again, guys, I see we got about 16 watching. I appreciate all of you guys coming through. Make sure you get the likes up on the video. Highly appreciative. Um, if you guys want to support the channel, please feel free to do so. Of course, we're happy to have you here. Again, the interviewee is none other than Big Brother. His real name is Bede. He's in the chat often, so when you see his name, it's the lion's head icon, and the name is Big Brother. So um, fellow traveler, I see you. He's saying he's not actually living in Mindanao, but he was there for a pretty decent amount of time. And, in these particular areas that have been profiled as being dangerous areas. So because of that, had to bring him on, had to hear the particular, stories or what he had to offer in that particular perspective. Again, not about the females tonight, not about any of that stuff. It's just a logical question that a lot of people ask about the Mindanao region, and we're trying to not necessarily debunk it, but to explain a narrative that is not yet or that I'm sorry, to explain the narrative, the least popular narrative about these particular areas. So you said you were in Iligan, you went to Dipolog and a couple of other areas. Which of those areas that you went to did you honestly feel you were the safest? Least safest out of all of those areas you went to?
I think it was at least I would think illegal basically, but I was already conditioned to believe so. Plus the proximity with the Marau, and you could see like some boars. Like I saw like next to the AirBNB where I was, there was like barangay from Marau, basically like a government of Marau, local government moving to Iligan. So I was quite suspicious. I tried to keep my cool, but I was thinking anything could happen in Iligan. And you could see like a presence of those guys as well. Well, not that I'm biased against them, but everyone believes it's more likely to get a bit hot when those guys are there than everywhere else. So yeah, definitely Iligan I wasn't feeling like very comfortable. I wouldn't probably venture in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in Davao City more specifically, the cops, they're very friendly. I'm not, you can take pictures with them, say hi to them. To be honest, did you feel that energy there that the police now I know they have to be strong, I know they have to be stern, but with you being a foreigner, did you feel like they were approachable?
Yeah, police were approachable everywhere. Even when they do those regular checks, they weren't very intense. They would just check your passport, your ID. They don't ask a question. They don't check your bags. They still have their smile on their face. It
Okay.
doesn't. There is no tension. They're just there, but there's no tension. They don't look tense. They don't look like the finger on the trigger, and they are still friendly. Yeah, that's the thing with the Philippines. Everybody seems to be friendly. If you ask, if they look at you and they look like you don't know where you're going, they will just come to you. What are you looking for, sir? Can we help you? Yeah, they are still friendly over there as well. The reason I said I was a bit more tense there is just I didn't want to sort of culturally or religiously offend someone. I
Okay.
remember at Gingidan airport, there were these ladies, a lot of ladies, I don't know, maybe 8 of them taking a selfie, and I crossed. Generally, I do like jokes, like, oh, let me take a selfie with you too. And I thought I was going to do that. I thought, hang on, that might be like a punishable offense with some religion. I may be stoned to death right here, right now. So I was more cautious to be very careful to not offend anyone with a statement I make or a joke or any other sort of reckless movement that is acceptable in a Western culture, but not known with the other religion, So yeah, that.
Okay, so I mean, in general, we definitely like to make sure that we don't do anything to offend, and I kind of feel like in those particular areas that are, quote unquote, considered to be the dangerous areas in the Mindanao region, you definitely are on your P's and Q's just a little bit more. Um,
Definitely.
was there anything that was surprising or shocking about these particular areas that you did not expect? I mean, you could say, "Oh, it's not as bad as I thought," but was there anything that surprised you about any of these particular areas when you visited them?
I think one shocking thing was that we tended to believe, or from what I have heard, or if you just don't go as far from Manila, you tend to believe that at least every Filipino will understand some level of English.
Hmm.
But I do remember areas in the Polog, in Iligan, where I couldn't communicate with the taxi driver, where you couldn't ask how much is this, and I get. So yeah, I was actually surprised also that they some of those people over there, especially if you move away from the city centers. I went really far, like in Calamba. It's just a very small town there, and you get surprised that you get a sort of a feeling of Vietnam, where everything is a struggle to order a meal, it's a struggle to ask how much a thing costs. Even at the point that they cannot say 20 peso, they have to go in the pocket and bring a 20 and show to you. So that was a surprise. Actually, I didn't expect that in that part of Mindanao.
Okay.
Maybe that's probably the main surprise. But I think the first surprise actually was when I got to Iligan and I went to a place called Paseo de Santiago, and there was a nightlife. It was like 10 p.m. There were people still were walking around the beach, drinking drinks and eating food, and a karaoke going on. I was like, I can't believe this is illegal or Mindanao, and it is 10 p.m. and people are still having fun. I would think that at this time, everyone is in the house and sleeping and quietly. So that was like my first surprise. Was just my first or my first night actually. So and it gave me like a sense of relaxation. So those two
Okay.
things were sort of surprising to me. Yeah,
So basically, you went there and it was basically no different than probably any other area in the Philippines. They kind of had their very own like small little nightlife and something that they were doing to entertain themselves. And yes, I do believe that you probably wouldn't expect that in areas that are supposed to be considered, dangerous. You wouldn't expect them to be having fun at parties and all of that stuff. So I respect it.
exactly.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Is there anything else that you want to, put out there anything out there that you wanted to talk about in reference to your experiences traveling in those areas?
I think it will be a sort of disclaimer. So I'm not a security expert. So if you go into the Philippines, please check with the security. I think most of the government website will have some warning on safety traveling. They tended to err on the side of caution. So Mindanao would probably be flagged red everywhere. So follow those instead. Don't follow me. I'm not an expert in terms of security. The second thing is this is my personal experience. I may have been lucky, and sometimes a bit of a risky taker. So don't do what I do sometimes, and yeah, it may be dangerous beyond what I observed. But also is maybe a tip or guidelines, like you guys say, always just follow the rules, be nice to the people. Things are not always the way you expect them to be, like in the USA or Canada or Australia or England. They do things differently. Just go with the flow. Some people tend to resist or to be antagonistic or to complain about the level of service, all of those things. I also am pretty simple. I don't stand out, except maybe for the color of my skin in the Philippines. The rest is I'm wearing a t-shirt, normal t-shirt, some sandals, a pair of jeans or shorts. I have a GoPro here, but I rarely use it in the public, pointing to people's face. I don't do any vlogging, so I don't look like I've got tons of money. Well, I don't have actually, but I don't look like I'm not. I don't look like a good target when you think about it. So that helps. Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's what I can say around this. A sort of a disclaimer, but also sort of tips on how to not stand out when you are in those particular areas and just be safe and not. I don't also do a lot of nightlife, so most of the time I'm a homeboy, so back home by 10 p.m. Not too much into pubs and the bars, which can probably sometimes trigger certain reactions when people get one or two glass too many. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so I mean, it is always good to err on the side of caution as a foreigner or anywhere that you go. And, I do appreciate, your insight on the particular regions that have been, quoted as being somewhat dangerous to your average foreigner. So, I mean, with that being said, I mean, do you have any final thoughts or anything that you want to say to the audience? I didn't want to keep you on very long, but I definitely wanted to get, to the meat of the issue with how people are perceiving the Mindanao region now. And, even though this is technically one person's opinion and one person's experience, and your experience may be different, it does give you somewhat of an indicator of what things could possibly be like. So, if you have anything else you want to add, please feel free to do so. And, we'll go on from there.
Yeah, I think one as I said, that the first thing is to look into the statistics. I know they're not necessarily a good indicator of safety levels, but generally there are not many incidents happening in the Philippines in that part of Mindanao. The second is most of the time, like the last incident I heard, I think it was a journalist. So journalists are sort of a target in that sometimes they're construed as a spies,
Correct.
and sometimes because they want to get this news that no one else has gotten, they want to be the first to see. They take like a lot of risk and go to those areas where you wouldn't venture or there's nothing to see. And one of those is like a Sulu or Hollow Islands. I wouldn't probably go there for unless I just want to test my life for the final. Yeah, I wouldn't go there. So that's the thing. But check with the locals. I mean, you could go online, join a forum, a Facebook group, or whatever you like. Get in touch with some local there, talk to them. They will probably tell you what's dangerous, what's not, and if you're there as well, you can get a tour guide who could be a friend you met online, or look for one who does that for a living, and they will probably guide you through which place to go, which place not to go. And when you're with them, you feel safe first, but also they will protect you in a sense. They know which areas are safer than others. Yeah, but that's what I can say.
I have to,
I'm more,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm just saying, man, I have to agree with you. I mean, I do feel like the locals, if you do communicate with some people, they seem to take it upon themselves to make sure that your safety is their priority, especially if they
Yeah,
consider you to be a friend. I've had plenty of
definitely.
people who have traveled into dangerous areas in the Davao del Sur region, in the Cotabato region, and areas like that. They never did it by themselves. They always had somebody with them, somebody who, had their back. Even in Zamboanga, there are people that say, "Oh, I've been there. I had no problem. I went with somebody." So, as long as you pair yourself with good people, people that you can trust, I do believe that that makes your experience in that particular area in the Philippines. I mean, it'll make all the difference. It'll
Definitely.
make
Yeah.
all the difference. So, again, I appreciate you being on here, Bede, man. Much love to you. Everybody, for y'all that don't know, his name is Big Brother here on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a great show. I want to give you guys a quick shout out. Eddie Jackson, I see you, man. Shout out to my man NY Mets fan. I see my Philippines interest, Jedi, fellow traveler, my man Ed. I see you guys here. Just wanted to give you guys a quick thank you for being here. Frederick Mason, my friend E Styles. And yeah, thank you guys for showing up, and for those in the background who were listening just for a casual casual thing for your Sunday evening if you are in the United States. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here on the Dr. Mike TV channel. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you chose to spend just a little bit of your time with me and my guest. So we thank you. Maraming salamat sa lahat. And if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, please feel free to do so. Get your likes up. I see we got 15 in here. If you haven't already, like the video. Big brother, it's been a great one, man. And I appreciate you spending the time with us over here. And until next time, man, take care.
All right. All right.
All right, guys, take care.
Cheers.